This is the Polish Tier 10 Tech Tree Heavy Tank we have all been waiting for to finally get released. I'm of course your host, Droodles, Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be breaking into what is the 60 TP, a full statistical rundown, how the tank is going to perform when you do get your hands on it, and as well the armor profile showing you just how crazy this tank can be. So as always, if you enjoyed today's content and you want to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below, especially because it literally took me, no joke, 5 hours to make today's video because how bad the NA matchmaker currently is to actually get into games, which kind of sucks. But yeah, let's get into the statistics of the 60 TP to start off with. Its gun is good. It's not great on certain aspects. I mean, the dispersion is outright awful at 0.385. Its aiming time is pretty poor as well at 4.8 seconds, and its DPM is nothing incredible at 2379. Although one thing I do want to point out is that for my provisions, I'm actually running 2 mobility ones instead of actually running Faworki. I don't know how to pronounce that, but either way, that'll give you a little bit more DPM, upwards of 31, and then if you have that extra 31 and you're a rammer person, you can actually get that DPM upwards of around 2600, so it's kind of average for a tier 10 heavy tank, and judging that this thing has 600 damage per shot, that's actually not too bad when you compare it to a vehicle like the E100 or the VK72. Now the penetration is very solid at 271 on the standard and 363 on the premium. It's not 374 like vehicles on the Krandong or the IS4 or the T57 Heavy, but that is still plenty of penetration to cut through really any armor that you need to. Mouse turrets, E100 cheeks, Jagdpanzer E100s, so you don't need to worry about the penetration whatsoever as long as you're running calibrated shells. Gun depression is very strong at 7 degrees, and when you go to the average damage, one thing that's super nice is because this thing has 88 millimeters of high explosive pen, not only do you cut through a lot of weakly armored targets, which you're going to see in one of our replays, this thing has huge damage per shot at almost 700, which, yeah, that's going to hurt quite a bit. The heat, it's not as good, it's 530 damage per shot, but I'm actually kind of happy that it's lower, because that is going to dissuade people from spamming premium shells in this vehicle. Now when we break into the mobility, because on my provisions I'm running improved gear oil, which increases engine power by 6%, plus I'm running improved fuel, which increases my engine power by another 10%. This vehicle has a 20% buff basically on the actual engine power. So it's a pretty fast tank from the loadout I've been running. Not only that, but it can go 4 faster forwards and 4 faster in reverse. So even though this tank normally only goes 36 kilometers per hour and 15, I actually have it going 40 kilometers per hour and 19, which is a lot more, should I say, speedy. So that's already very good, and you'll see just how fast it feels. But just for anybody wondering if you should be running the other gear oil, which does give you that plus 2% and plus 2 in reverse and forwards, personally, I really don't think it's worth it, because improved fuel gives you a 10% engine power boost, and this gives you a 3%. So you can see here that even though you do get that 2 kilometer per hour faster forward and reverse, you're never really going to reach it because it's slower on every single thing that has to do with power to weight, turret traverse, hull turn rate, and engine power itself. So yeah, it's kind of just worse in my personal opinion. Now when we go to my consumable loadout, I'm running a single multi-purpose restoration pack, and I am running a adrenaline and as well tungsten rounds. Now if you're unfamiliar with tungsten rounds and you've been living under a rock for the past months, this has an insane ability, 105% to 125% damage per shot. Now that means that on average with tungsten shells, when you put this on, it lasts for a duration of 2 shots, you are going to be dealing around 700 damage per shot, 690 to be exact, but that's pretty insane. That means that if, let's say you come up against an E100 and he shoots you, and you get angry at him, bam, 690 back. Or, you know, you see a light tank like a Vickers Light, or, you know, a Leopard 1 zipping around the map, boom, plop on your tungsten shells, and now your HE is going to roll easily 750 damage on average. Yeah, pretty insane there, isn't it? So I'll voice my opinions on tungsten shells now the vehicle is there, but overall, this tank is pretty insane. And before we do finally get into the gameplay, because I know you guys are probably wanting it, this is the armor profile of the tank. Now the upper plate is 314 millimeters thick, and to put a good comparison here, let me get at the IS4 so you can see really what the IS4's is like, which is 200 675. So yes, that is right. The upper plate of this tank is thicker than an IS-4. Although you can see, actually no, it's about the same because the Kranvong, actually I forgot, shoots APCR, which doesn't have as much shell normalization. So they're about the same on the upper plate, which is pretty impressive, judging that this thing is a very, very large tank. One thing that is not the same, though, is that this vehicle has 7 degrees of gun depression, which, well, yeah. You can see the upper plate now is 394, basically impervious to any shells, and if you're loading heat, you have 533. Now, sure, you can penetrate the little hatch there in the middle, but as long as you're smart in this tank and you use the gun mantlet and you don't really peek anything lower than the mantlet yourself, I mean, you're literally not hitting anything. These weak spots here are all hidden, and look at that turret armor. I mean, it's upwards of 500 to 999, and that's a discount. You can see there is a cupola on the roof, and I have hit it twice. And from those 2 shots, it was from one tank that was about 20 feet away from me sitting still. That cupola may not look small in this picture, but that's just because of how large the vehicle is. It's actually a really, really small target. You can see it right there. Yeah, not the easiest of targets to hit. So let's get into my replays here. And normally I don't do replays, but I figured for a new tank, I really wanted to voice my opinion on how it is. And plus, it's literally taken me so long to get into games, I honestly couldn't care because I don't want to have to wait 20 minutes in queue to make a video that I should just be able to tell you guys my personal opinion on. Now, I think the tank looks amazing. I mean, if you look at this camouflage on it, I personally think this camo looks amazing on the vehicle. And the tank itself looks great. I mean, the PBR, it's honestly stunning. It looks HD, like really, really HD. So I'm very happy with how the tank looks. And as I said before, this tank's pretty quick. I mean, you could see me easily there, driving at 40 kilometers per hour. Now that we're on flat ground, we're going up to 30. You can see it's not, you know, a ridiculously fast tank, but it's definitely not slow for a tank that is, quote-unquote, supposed to be slow. So that's one thing that's pretty insane. Don't read the chat, by the way. Just don't bother. That was a different story going off here, but we're just chilling. The enemy team currently has 2 60 TP prototypes, AMX-30B, Girl 15, T-62A, a Hori Type 2, and a Waffenträger Panzer IV. One of the big issues I've noticed with the matchmaker and why it takes so long is that everybody's trying to play this specific tank. If you ran a different vehicle, you'd probably get in a battle pretty quick. But if you're trying to grind down this line, because so many people are trying to get their hands on the tank, and oof, 580 damage slapped right into the rear of that Hori. But yeah, if you're trying to get your hands on this vehicle, unfortunately, yeah, there's a lot of people trying to grind it. Now, that Hori, I actually didn't think was going to turn around, but he ended up getting a pretty big slap into my tank. But here we go. You know, I just want you to look at the armor profile of that tiny, tiny lower plate. It's so small. But, as you can see, I put on my tungsten shells there to get that little bit extra damage, and because of that, re-rolled 690 damage on that one shot. We're at 1,272 now, and I really, really wanted to get my second tungsten shell out, but just unfortunately, one of my teammates shot that Hori before I was able to get out that big chonker of a roll into that Hori. So we've already done okay here. I mean, we've done 1,500 damage in just the first minute of me actually shooting. And because, as I said, this thing carries big HE potential, I just fired an HE shell at that 62A, and it still rolled 312. I mean, that's a huge roll when you think about it. And obviously, I didn't expose my tank to any harm, and we got a pretty big shot in. Then we loaded an HE shell, 730. Like, oh my, the travesty, the poor guy. Now we're sitting at 2,500 damage. So, yeah, I mean, we're doing pretty good so far, and this is just the beginning of the battle, right? We haven't really done anything that was super important. Now, I did get slapped by that 60 TP, you're going to notice in a second here, and it hurts. I mean, when you get hit by a tank like that, especially, he put on tungsten shells, and there you go, 727 damage in that standard shot. That was a pretty nice snap there into that cupola. But, I mean, yeah, 727 damage. I mean, you can see where tungsten shells is still, in my personal opinion, not something that should exist. Sure, it can make the game fun, as some people argue, but fun is not in the area of balance. There you go, another HE shell into the AMX for 730. In my opinion, always balancing tanks to make them actually fair for everybody is way more important than actually making something fun. Because obviously fun is at everybody else's dispense. It's like running a 183 and saying, ha, I enjoy it, and then everybody else dies. So here we go, we got the enemy 60 TP. Again, just look at how small that lower plate is. It's actually, I mean, you can see me struggling to aim there just hoping that it doesn't miss. And honestly, I just played this game. I was literally praying that that shot would hit because I put on my tungsten shells. So there you go. The first shot went in, and because I put on my adrenaline, and we're going to fire one more. Bang, 713. Managed to get that tungsten out, and, well, that was 5,300 damage. And that's the 60 TP. I mean, it's such an insane tank. You can do things like that easily. And I mean, I don't know what to say. That was a very good game. We got a mastery, 17,000 credits, which was surprising because I did use all of my consumables. But yeah, that's what the tank can do. So let's do one more battle here, see what the tank can do in the second game that I played. Now, just to put an inference here, these two games I played back to back, and these are the last two games I've played before I'm currently recording the video. So that just gives you an idea of I didn't really cherry pick these replays. These were just the two games that I played that I was kind of chilling. I literally just woke up, so yeah, just trying to see how the tank plays. Now, the enemy team has 260 TPs, 2 Grill 15s, a Grandong, M48 Patton, and a T57 Heavy. And that's a weird lineup, isn't it? I mean, the 2 Grills is going to be very easy to rip apart, as long as they're not shooting at me. And the 60 TPs are not going to be easy to rip apart. Now, my team, as you'll notice, has 3 60 TPs. As you can see in the chat there, said I warned them. I honestly do think that this tank might be nerfed. I don't know, because the Yo, as we all know, should be nerfed. I mean, at this point, we all know that the tank is being spammed in comp. The vehicle itself is ridiculous, and it hasn't been nerfed yet. And I think what's going to happen here is maybe Wargaming's not even going to nerf this tank. I personally do feel that it is a little too strong. Maybe not a little, but it's definitely too strong. It's overcooked. Yeah, I mean, you're going to watch me again just rip into the poor enemy here. There's a 60 TP, and, well, boom. 660 damage, and you back up. I mean, that's 1,280 damage in this vehicle. So, yeah, I definitely think the tank is too strong. If I were to nerf really anything on it, I'd just take away tungsten shells, and I would take away the gear oil. I wouldn't nerf any actual statistics on the tank. I would just take away those two things because they don't belong on this tank. They make it a little bit stronger than I personally think it should be. Another way I think you could balance it is, instead of giving this vehicle the option of adrenaline, get rid of adrenaline if you want to keep those tungsten shells on, so that way, instead of getting that 20% DPM boost, you're just getting a little bit of a damage boost. There we go, nice shot into that M48 Patton. Now we're sitting at 2,100 damage. Unfortunately, again, we weren't able to use that final shot of tungsten there, as that Patton just got shot right before we were able to hit him by another 60 TP. Loading in heat, and it said he was like a 50-50 on the pen, but, well, looks like I got the bad end of that 50-50 gamble there, and it did not penetrate the Grandong's turrets. But we're still doing pretty good here. I mean, the reload doesn't even seem bad, because an E100 has that little bit higher alpha, so, you know, you don't really need to worry too much. But, there you go, nice HE into the rear of the Grandong. Wanted to make sure I killed him there, and we're now sitting at 2,700 damage, and clearly, because I have such a high alpha, all we need is one more shot, and I'll be breaking that 3k damage barrier in one single area. And yeet, there you go, 632 damage, and that's a wrap, folks. So, what do I have to say about the tank? I definitely think that the consumables are too much. I don't think that tungsten shells and the gear oil should exist. I think the tank itself is actually pretty nice. It's got good mobility, it's got a great gun, and I mean, these two games just showcased very simple things that the tank can do very well at. So hopefully all of you enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, stay happy. Now, if you wanted to grind on this line, I would say that it's worth it. Honestly, I think this is a fantastic line. The tier 8, I haven't played it yet, but I can tell you from looking at it, it looks insane. Tier 7 looks incredibly strong, and the tier 8, not the tier 8, but the tier 9, it also looks super duper strong. And if anybody has their hands on the 50 TP prototype, because you can run these consumables on this tank, what that means is you can get it to go upwards of 52 kilometers per hour. Yes, this is now the fastest heavy tank in the game. Well, I don't know what to say, folks, but hopefully all of you enjoyed today's video. As I said, if you'd like to see more like it, click that subscribe button down below. But other than that, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye!